While we wait for The Boys Season 3, we have this small little spin-off series to hold us over. That's right, folks, today I'm talking about The Boys Diabolical. This 8-episode miniseries consists of 8 separate stories with different animation styles and writers. I'm not entirely sure if this series is canon, considering the fact that some episodes just take place in worlds that are very cartoony. Also, one episode has the comic version of the characters. I think it is pretty cool to see the comic versions of the characters brought to the animated format, and I do think it's neat they got Simon Pegg to play Huey, considering that he's modeled after Simon Pegg in the comics. Little fun fact there. This series brought forward a lot of very interesting episodes, and there were some that were just kind of flat compared to others. I was not a fan of the Aquafina one. I didn't think it was funny. I just kind of thought it was gross. I just feel like it was trying way too hard to make gross funny, and I still just couldn't get behind the fact that this girl was running around with a piece of shit in her hand. Like, these girls are making fun of her in the beginning for being fucking lame. And, like, her arc is supposed to be that she likes herself now and shit, but, like, she's hanging out with a piece of shit. Like, I don't know if that's a win. But then we have episodes like 1 + 1 = 2, which is just 15 minutes of us following around Homelander and watching him lose his shit for one of the first times on the job. We've watched him do some pretty diabolical shit in live action, and it's crazy to see how it was translated to the animated format, because it's just as fucked up. When you have a show like this, it's hard to judge the whole season when every single episode has a different tone entirely. So I'm just gonna go through every episode and tell you guys my thoughts, and then I'll do a ranking at the end from my favorite to least favorite. Our first episode is Laser Baby's Day Out. This episode's animated to emulate the Looney Tunes style. It's constantly referenced throughout the entire episode. It relies heavily on slapstick and crazy shenanigans happening with Laser Baby. And the amount of gore in the cutesy art style really just reminds me of Happy Tree Friends, and it just reminds me how that fucking ruined my childhood. There isn't much to this episode. It's not bad, it just doesn't have a lot to it. I wish there was more to say about this episode, but there's just not. It's just a cute 14-minute animation with Laser Baby as her main focus as she gets through the city, and this doctor guy chases her and tries to save her and junk. Do you guys think that this Laser Baby has anything to do with the last Laser Baby? Will we maybe one day see the return of Laser Baby? I don't know. I got no clue.
Holy fuck! That was diabolical!
Next up is an animated short where pissed off soups kill their parents. This episode actually plays with a really cool concept of people who just got really stupid superpowers. I feel like the only one who has anything useful to do in this episode is Ghost. I feel like she's the only one who can be an actual character and hero on her own, because everybody else's powers just kind of get in the way of them existing, or are just completely useless and don't matter at all. This episode's a perfect example of how Vought has absolutely no idea what Compound V can do. Sometimes it creates sentient pieces of shit. Sometimes you get really cool superpowers. Sometimes it creates sentient cancer. Sometimes your fucking head explodes. It really varies. There are also just some powers in this episode that I felt were just kind of like too silly. Like the booby face guy. Like, I just think that that's a little stupid. It's just a little too silly for my liking. It feels like it was trying way too hard to be funny, and it just kind of flopped on me. I don't know. Maybe the audience that's not me really thought Booby Face Guy was fucking hilarious. I just think it was a little stupid and dumb and didn't need to happen. Honestly, other than that, I think this episode was successfully funny. It made me laugh. I thought it was pretty enjoyable, and I think it's the only one that I've rewatched since I finished the season. Small bit of time we have with the characters in this episode, I actually came to really enjoy Ghost. She's a really cool concept, and I really want to see more of this character. The weight that she carries around with her not being able to feel or do anything, and that her parents hate her. She has so much hate and pain on her back, so she could be a very interesting character for the future. With the way they ended this episode, I'd like to say that we can see her again, maybe, possibly, but I don't know. Just saying, with the way they ended that episode, we'll probably see her again in the future, maybe in a season 2, maybe in live action, I don't know. I did predict the return of Cad Bane in Boba Fett, so maybe I'll do it again. I also really like that most of the soups got to use their powers to kill their parents in a very unique way. I like watching the various ways these superheroes can use their powers to kill their parents. I can't say it wasn't entertaining. Our next episode in this season is I'm Your Pusher, which is ripped straight from the pages of the Boys comics. Jason Isaacs replaces Carl Urban as Butcher in this episode, and I think he does a pretty nice job. I mean, obviously nobody's going to be as terrifying and as amazing for Butcher as Carl Urban is, but Isaacs does a very nice job of emulating the character in the animated format. And as I said earlier, Simon Pegg voices Huey in this episode, and like I said, I think that's pretty neat considering that Simon Pegg is like the base model for Huey in the comics. They look pretty similar. This is also not the first time we've seen Simon Pegg on The Boys, considering that he plays Huey's dad all the way back in season 1. In this episode, Butcher forces a soup drug dealer to drug the Great Wide Wonder, a superhero voiced by Michael Cera, to result in as many soup casualties as possible. And I think they succeeded. This episode 100% is another one of my favorites from this season. It was really interesting to see some heroes that we don't normally get to see in live action. And it was even more interesting to hear all the messed up stuff they do, which makes it alright to kill them. Although we only spend a small amount of time with these versions of our characters, I definitely would like to see more of them in maybe a season 2. I would love to see a follow-up comic episode. That would be fucking awesome. I don't know if there's much more to say about this episode. I think it was great and I really enjoyed it. Episode 4 is titled Boyd in 3D. This episode deals with our characters' insecurities and how social media completely warps them, making their insecurities stronger and making them want to hide them more and more. Boyd is a scrawny little man living in his apartment who doesn't really have the confidence to talk to girls. So he wants to be Giga Chad, and he becomes Giga Chad. Now that he's big and beefy, he has the confidence to talk to our other main character, Sherry. Or Cherry. It was Cherry. Cherry's really insecure about her looks, so she becomes a fucking cat. Not really sure how that fixes her problem with insecurity, but let's fucking roll with it. She works with it. The world thinks our characters are like the hottest fuckers on the planet, so they go internet famous, and they're now social media stars, which drives them farther and farther apart when they become more and more focused on their Instagram accounts. Or, I don't know, some fucking bot version of Instagram. Do they have Instagram in The Boys? I actually really like the animation style they went with for this episode. It reminds me of some kind of Disney short. I can't really put my finger on exactly what I'm talking about, but that's what it reminds me of. This episode isn't bad by any means, but it's definitely one of the lesser interesting ones looking back on this season. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not a huge fan of the ending. Like, it was funny and incredibly fucked up, but like, I don't like sitting for 15 minutes watching characters that I get to enjoy just for it to all be bullshit. Like, you're now telling me that all the development we just saw between these two characters was all just bullshit. Like, it was all just in Boyd's stupid head before it fucking exploded. I guess that's what happens when you rub Compound V all over your face and dick.